Hello, we are in the middle of like a 2-month-long heat wave in the UK. I've just run around trying to tidy the bed a little bit to do this video and I'm slightly sweaty, so I apologise for that. Today I thought I would do a sort of wedding build-up / planning Q&A. We have been planning this wedding for almost 2 years and now we are just under 2 weeks away from the date. The questions I've got today are a little bit of a mix from questions I've taken from other Q&As that I've watched and also questions that have been asked to me quite a few times by friends, family, people on Instagram, things like that. Before I start, I just want to mention a quick bit of housekeeping. I have found having 3 kids, being self-employed and trying to plan a wedding quite tricky to juggle everything, and I kind of always knew that in the last few weeks before the wedding it was all going to gear towards the wedding and everything else has kind of gone by the wayside. So I just wanted to say I am aware that my videos are quite sporadic at the moment. I'm still uploading, but sometimes you might not see one for a week or 2, sometimes you might see 2 in 1 week. It's kind of very sporadic at the moment. And once the wedding is done and once the school summer holidays are done, I'm going to get back to my usual schedule. So on to the questions. I've got them all on my phone. I kind of took a few from other YouTube wedding planning Q&As that I've watched, and the others are all questions that I've been asked from friends, family, people on Instagram. So the first question is, which part of your wedding are you most excited for? This one's actually quite hard to answer. I'm just excited for the day in general. I'm excited to have all of our friends and family in one place. It's a proper once in a lifetime thing to be able to get all of your loved ones together for a day. So I think that is probably the thing I'm most excited for. And also just to see all our plans come together. We've been talking about things for literally years. It's almost 2 years since we first booked our venue date to the date we're getting married. So yeah, I'm just excited to see everything finally come together. What are the things that you've splurged on and the things that you've saved money or compromised on? So, documentation was a big one that we have splurged on. Obviously I love making videos, I love photography, and Sam always knew this about me and knew that when it came to having our wedding I would want to prioritise the photographers and the videographers really high up there, and I would want them to take quite a large portion of our budget, which is exactly what we have done. Another thing that kind of came towards the end of our planning that sort of surprised us that we weren't planning to do was get a wedding planner. We've got kind of lots of different kind of things happening, all different vendors, all different suppliers. There's a lot of loose ends that need tying together, and at a certain point during the planning I realised it would be actually really helpful to have someone on the day who's in charge of everyone, who can tie everything together. So we hired a wedding planner, which was something that we hadn't initially planned to do, so I count that as a bit of a splurge as well. Things that we have saved money on, the food, I mean, we've gone for the cheapest food option possible, which is pizza, so that saved us quite a bit of money. There's no kind of £80 per head 3-course dinners going on. We are not having a wedding cake. We weren't really bothered about having one, so instead we're having our guests contribute to a dessert table, and we're going to have people bake things and bring them in. There's going to be a bit of everything. We didn't print anything, so we didn't do save the dates, we didn't do printed invitations, we're not doing a printed order of service, partly because it feels like such a waste of paper to just have things like order of services printed. People look at them for 20 minutes and then they get discarded. So what we did was we got a wedding website, we did our invitations by email. That saved a lot of money and a lot of time. Sam's mum is doing the flowers, so we haven't had to pay out for a florist. So I'd say those are the 3 big areas that we're kind of saving money on: not having anything printed, having the flowers done by a family member, and not having a wedding cake. How long were you together before you got engaged? Well, obviously we have the kids, we've been together quite a while. We got engaged September 2016, so I think at that point we had been together 12 years, and once we're married in a couple of weeks we will have been together for almost 14 years. Are you doing anything different or quirky on the day? Yeah, I guess we probably are. I don't kind of want to give away too much about the day. I will obviously do some content after the day. I have a massive blog post planned and half drafted already, which is basically the most important things I learned about planning a wedding. And I'm also hoping to do a video debrief for YouTube, possibly with Sam, if I can convince him to do it with me, about just how the wedding day went and our initial reactions. So there will be all of this stuff to come, and I'll give away more of the details of our wedding in that, because I kind of don't want to spoil it too much beforehand. But there definitely will be things that are non-traditional and a bit quirky. For instance, we're getting the kids involved quite heavily in the ceremony. We're not doing a traditional walk down the aisle. It's going to be a little bit different. Instead of having like a typical DJ set, we are actually having our guest DJ at the reception. They're going to choose 3 songs each, which we just thought was quite a fun idea and a good way to involve all of our guests. We are hoping, if it's a dry day, to have a ceremony in the woods, and our friend is actually going to be the celebrant rather than someone official, so I guess that's kind of quirky. The main thing we're aiming for is that it's very relaxed and it's very heartfelt, and it's kind of all about family, and that's just really what we want from the day. Are you going to vlog the wedding? I like to think I would, but obviously I know I'm just going to be really busy on the day. I am sort of vlogging a bit of the preparations, and if I feel like it on the morning, I might vlog some of the morning of preparations, but we have hired a videographer who's going to put together like a nice video where there's like, it's set to music and stuff. So with whatever footage I get and the videographer's footage, I'm hoping that I'll have something by the end of it that I can kind of mishmash together, and it'll be like my record of the day plus everyone else's record of the day. Other thing that I'm really hoping will happen is that instead of having a traditional guest book, I want our guests to do a video guest book. So I'm going to leave a couple of little handheld cameras around, just like the ones that I filmed this on, and ask guests to leave us a message or just pick up the camera and start filming if they see something amusing happening, just so that I can have that record of our guests' view of our day, because on the day the bride and groom don't get to see a lot of that. Even though I know how awkward it is to pick up a camera and start talking to it, even for someone who does it quite a lot, I'm hoping that once our guests have had a few drinks in them, that they kind of get on board with this, and then hopefully I'll have some of that footage to mix in with some of the rest of the footage from our day. Is there anything that you're nervous about? Yeah, any bit where it's all eyes on me, which basically is the whole day. I don't really like attention. I find it weird when everyone's looking at me, so things like walking down the aisle makes me nervous thinking about it. The first dance, I mean, neither me and Sam are dancers. We've chosen a song that's literally under 3 minutes, basically for that reason, so that we don't have to be up there for too long. And also I am going to do a speech, and I'm kind of nervous about that because I tend to get quite kind of breathless and nervous when I'm doing public speaking, and even though it's just to my friends and family, so hopefully I'll feel a little bit more relaxed, I know that I probably won't fully relax until after I've done my speech, and then I'm going to get on the wine. How far away is your wedding day, and how stressed are you right now? Good question. So the wedding day is just under 2 weeks from now, so it's like 12 days away, I think, not that I'm counting. How stressed am I? It's kind of varying. Yesterday I had quite a stressy day. Today I feel okay. I tend to find I get stressed when I feel overwhelmed with my to-do list, and then as soon as I've ticked a few things off, I start to feel calmer again. Do you have any tips for planning a wedding when you have children? Yeah, it's kind of been a challenge because obviously we've just got our family life to think about. Family life goes on amongst all the wedding planning. I guess one of my tips would be to have an appointed person to look after your children on the day, and make sure you've talked to them about it beforehand. Don't just assume, oh, there's lots of family here, someone will look after them, because chances are everyone will think someone else is doing it. I have been really anal about it, and I've actually written a childcare rota where everyone has an hour slot, just so that I can have peace of mind that someone is tasked with the responsibility of looking after my children. One of the lovely things about doing it after children is, although there's stresses, just logistical stresses, like when I'm going for dress fittings, it's like, who's going to be looking after my toddler? That's been kind of stressful, but one of the really lovely things about doing it after children is that they get to be involved, they get to be there on the day, and I think just that fact makes it much more heartfelt. Are you DIYing any elements of your wedding? We are. I mean, it kind of depends what you mean by DIY. So we have a completely DIY bar. We're buying in all the alcohol. If you mean more like crafting, I mean, I like to think that I'm good at crafting, but really I'm just quite impatient and I don't have time for it. And especially with having the children and our busy lives, I was never going to have time to craft a lot of things for this wedding. So I haven't really done much crafting. There's certain things that I've seen on Pinterest and I've been like, oh, that would be really nice to make. But now that we're at crunch time and we're under 2 weeks away, I just know that it won't happen. I am a Photoshop user, so I have designed some sort of text-based graphics that I've printed for signage and things. Sam has a massive aversion to brush script or calligraphy fonts, so that made things challenging. So everything I looked at on Etsy that's actually quite reasonably priced for handcrafted things was ruled out because it's all calligraphy fonts. I think if I had been doing this wedding pre-children and I had more time on my hands at weekends and in the evenings, I would 100% be crafting a few things because I do quite like doing that sort of thing. But in our current situation, I am time poor as it is, and it was just another thing that I knew was going to add to my stress levels. And the last question is, are you taking your partner's surname? This is a big question, isn't it? I know a lot of people kind of have different opinions on this, and sometimes it's hard to know what to do. I mean, I'm in a kind of different position in that we already chose the surnames for our children when we found out we were having our first baby. So I kind of essentially knew that if we got married, I was already making that decision ahead of time as to what I'd do with my surname. So I've had a lot of time to think about it. I'm kind of lucky in the sense that I don't feel particularly attached to my current surname. I would be happy to change it. I don't feel emotional over it, and I know that can be a really big deal for some people. Equally, I don't feel particularly like I need to take Sam's surname, so it's a kind of funny position in that I don't feel particularly impassioned either way. I think I'm going to do a bit of a mix. I think I'm going to keep my name as it is professionally, maybe keep it on some legal documents. I will probably change the passport so that my surname matches the children's name, because it can be quite difficult when you're travelling and you've got different surnames, especially if you're travelling without their dads. But as it currently stands, I haven't made my final decision, and actually you don't need to. It's not like there's this cut-off point and when you're married you suddenly need to change your name. The only time it kind of comes into effect is when you're changing like your driving license or your passport. And knowing me, I will not get around to that for at least 5 years. That is all the questions. The next time you hear from me, I might well be married. So I will be back with a post-wedding update with the things that I've learnt from wedding planning, and hopefully just a post-wedding debrief with how the day went and our favourite moments. So if you're not subscribed and you want to watch that, make sure you do subscribe. Leave me a comment if there's anything particular you would like to know about our day or you'd like to hear about, and I will see you next time.